with volume turned off, so that way we can just read.
Yeah, and new managing, like if you can, I don't know, we'll see if anybody comes in to the YouTube.
I'll also go and shout your page out right now on Instagram. You're going off of your Amauclent account, right?
Yeah, what should my title be?
Maybe same thing.
Yeah,
Maybe just AMA, just to keep it simple. Oh, I can just add to story. Perfect. This is so hard. It's like your page, but you made it so professional looking. Wait, oh, there we go.
Oh, yes, thank you. Where's and okay, plus. We'll just use plus.
Oh, motherfucker! So stupid.
All right, here we go.
Nice. We are live.
We are live.
Yo, AMAC, before we start, just want to say pleasure to speak with you again. Thank you for having me here today. And
always.
I'm grateful for another opportunity for us to, spread some positivity and, tap in with the community.
What up, Jill? How you doing? Thanks for coming.
Hey, what's up? Thank you guys for tuning in.
So, yeah, I don't know how to be live.
Well, I think we should definitely, start off. What I wanted to talk about a little bit too is I saw what you posted today about like having a lot on your plate and that kind of like meme. And I was curious, like what's going on with that? Cause I feel like, a lot of people took that like the wrong way. So I just wanted you to address it at all.
For sure. And what's up to everyone who's coming in the chat? We appreciate you. And like Sunny said, talking about, so I replied to a meme that said, you can't cry about what you have on your plate when you asked to eat. And I wrote back on the comment and I said, no, this is a toxic mindset to have people overwork, and like we need to have better portions on our plate, not just a lot of food, because if the food's falling on the floor, what does it matter? We can't eat it anyway then, right? And I got a lot of interesting comments about that. People calling me weak, saying that's female energy, saying a lot of things about it, saying I'm putting a bad spin on something that's actually positive, when I'm just encouraging people to have balance in their lives. So it's just really interesting how people think about things like that. And we're wondering how you all think about that. But Sunny?
Yeah, and to just speak a little bit on that, well, for me too, it's like one of those things where it's like a work life and creative balance, and I totally get the sentiment of like, hey, you put this food on your plate, but at the same time is like you got to be real with yourself and say, hey, are my eyes bigger than my stomach? You know what I mean? Am I putting myself in a position where I'm doing too much? And I would just like to speak on too is like me and AMAC had a really nice conversation where it was like, hey, like I was slacking on some things, you know what I mean? I'm going to be totally open and honest about that, because this is the kind of like conversations and relationship that me and AMAC have. It's like we're going to hold each other accountable. So I was slacking off, and I was like, you know what, I realized that like, hey, doing the teaching and doing the community service work, it was taking a lot of time and effort and energy, and I was just not being real with like, hey, I'm super appreciative and grateful to be in this position, no doubt, but at the same time it's like, hey, I'm only one person sometimes, and I have to let my friends be my friends and help support what we got going on, because we're a team. You know what I mean? This is something we're doing together. So it's like, hey, why struggle by yourself when you can have the support of the team around you? And I think for a lot of men, like we feel like very by ourselves sometimes, and it's we have unfortunately a lot of these quote unquote male role models that just prescribe to this idea of like you have to be grind, you have to do that. But where do you have time for yourself to be a person? Where do you have time for yourself to just stop and smell the flowers and say, hey, I love life, I just enjoy living? And I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, and where people kind of misconstrued your words was like, hey, you're just saying portion matters. We have a food pyramid for a reason. So to bring it back to you guys, we're interested in hearing like what are your guys' beliefs on that? Like, are we in the wrong? Are we in the right? You know what I mean? Let's have a conversation. And this is what this live is about, to really have a conversation with the community and give everybody an opportunity to speak with the both of us about, just life in general. You know what I mean? Because I feel like nobody really has like everything figured out. But after reading the Immaculate Mindset, like as a creative and as a creative entrepreneur, like I think that AMAC has a really good understanding of like the steps and key principles that we need to take as a community to really start to heal.
For sure. And I think like a really important fact, and hey to everyone who's in the chat, like please, if you have any stories or you have any questions about your own burnout, putting too much on your plate, how you balance that, we'd love to hear. We'd love to chat with you about it. And I think like a really good one of the things that that meme says is you can't cry about having too much on your plate because it's what you asked for, right? And so many of us think that because we asked for something or we said we were going to do something, like, it's important to be like a person of your word, of course, but things change all of the time. We can't just put so much pressure on ourselves because we said we were going to do something that we can't accomplish, and then also not communicate it to the people who are on our team who are supposed to be working with us. Whether or not somebody can pick up the slack or not, I need to know, what you're going through. We need to be able to communicate with each other and tell each other like what we can actually do instead of overexerting ourselves and constantly burn out or constantly not deliver on what we said. And that's what I was like talking about earlier, right?
Mhm.
We have all of these great ideas for all of the things to do, but I can't say I'm going to do something that I cannot deliver on because I understand within myself how much space I have. And I'm already pretty full up right now with everything that I have going on. I'm not going over the edge again like I have.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to like, your purpose and your ego wise. And I feel like with a lot of the kind of like grindset mindset, it really only feeds your ego, because you feel like by going harder than everybody else and by doing these things, it gives you you're asserting some type of dominance on the world around you. And really, you got to think of like the purpose behind it. You know what I mean? Like, why are you doing these things at a level that is detrimental to your own physical and mental health? You know what I mean? And I think that like, we need to take these quote unquote sabbaticals to really refresh our minds, especially as creatives. Like, we're using our minds 24/7. Like, I can't turn off being creative. At this point, I'm locked in. You know what I mean? I wake
Sure.
up 24/7. It's like, hey, what's the new thing? What's this? What's that? But at the same time, it's like I have to be real with myself and my responsibilities and say, hey, I'm working with a team of people. I'm working with somebody like yourself. And equally, I want to be respected and treated in a way where it's like, hey, we're on the same page and we're doing the same kind of things. And you got to just be real with yourself and hold yourself accountable and say, hey, this is too much for me right now. And I just think that I should be taking a step back and kind of reevaluating what I have on my plate. What needs to be there, what is nutritious, and what is just kind of like this leftover kind of like quote unquote fat that's really just like gonna hurt me at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And it's not something that I necessarily need to have on my plate, for this analogy.
For sure. And were there any comments in there?
Oh no, not yet. James, thank you. Good to see you again,
Oh, he
James.
just
Thank you
said,
for
hey,
tapping
hey,
in.
James.
But yeah, feel free to ask any questions below. We will be answering them throughout the live.
So I want to like call you out on something that you said right there,
Mhm.
right? Because you said like, oh, we need to like take a sabbatical. So when you think about a sabbatical, like that means almost like, okay, this is like last resort. I have to take this
Mhm.
sabbatical. But how can we portion in rest and taking care of ourselves? Right?
Mhm.
Because it's not something like separate from what we have to do.
It's part of that journey and part of that
Like, yeah,
process.
it's part of being a human being is literally resting and recharging, even if that's for a half a day. It's not like let's just keep going until we can't go anymore because that's just burnout over and over again.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to see the kind of bigger picture of like your time is almost like there's only so much time in the day. So it's like realistically, if you are to include in rest, if you are to include in kind of like a mental health check and your work life and all these things are taking up hours of your time. So you have to really portion that out for yourself to say, hey, this is feasible and manageable. Because if not, your eyes are just going to continue to be bigger than your stomach, and you're just going to feel more and more, overworked and overstressed. And I think, what I appreciate about having you in my life, and especially on like a work side of things, is that like you hold people accountable, and you're somebody that I really admire for the sense of your work ethic. Because even though these things may get in your way and they may feel like these giant boulders that you're holding on to by yourself, you still gracefully carry that burden and continue to walk forward, because you know that the work and the road you're paving now will help so many other people later on to discover the same strength within themselves and say, hey, I have this internal willpower to really see life for what it is and what it could be for me. You know what I mean? And how to really take this opportunity to really like work with myself. And that's one of the things that like I got from you is like, I've always appreciated that day where we had that conversation, and I brought up, hey, you're working on yourself. And you're like, no, no, no. Working on yourself is like being a car. Like it's like being a mechanic. It sounds like, you're working on something outside of you. But when you're working with yourself, you're working with you. You know what I mean? And I think that like as we get older, that's one of the things that I've really realized was like, hey, I need to work with myself more and more. Because if I'm just working on myself, I just think that this is a different version of me that I haven't achieved yet. But if I'm working with myself, I'm becoming that person every single day. It's about keeping that regime and then that discipline to really say, hey, I'm going to do it today. I'm going to be great. Even if I'm 1% greater than what I was yesterday, to strive in the right direction.
For sure. And something we were talking about earlier as well, and I thank you for sharing all of that with me. But when you're working towards something, and sometimes it's in centimeters, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, before there's a big leap in things, right? So I could even say it translates to addiction recovery, right? I have 13 years, right? But I don't have 13 years without one day. I don't have 13 years without 1 month. I don't have 13 years without 1 year, and so on and so forth, right? So it's this huge thing, this huge accomplishment, but it comes with showing up every single day. And my music career, all of that stuff, it's every day just showing up. I mean, I had fake jobs, bro.
What kind of fake jobs?
Oh my God. So when I first started in music,
Mhm.
I didn't know anybody. And the only way I knew how to like communicate or try to get out there was through Craigslist. And so I would email anybody who said they knew anything about music. And one time, which this is so crazy, I was so green when this happened, and it's like really embarrassing to actually talk about. But this guy just said that he was like a booking agent and he wanted me to get acts for him to book. And everything that I'm going to tell you here about a booking agent is, if anyone ever says this to you, never talk to these people ever again, ever, ever, ever again. But so I would go out, like, I would go out into the street and talk to people when I think about like the things that I did. I'd be like, hey, do you need a booking agent? Like, I've got a booking agent. And I'd be like, so, hey, dude, like, where do you book? Like, and he's just like, just tell people I can book them anywhere. Just tell them I can book them anywhere and get them to give you this money. So obviously this guy is scamming people because he has no actual resume. But I don't know, somehow I believed him because he got on the radio one day
Mhm.
and like talked about his company that he was like starting in Atlanta. I was like, oh, this dude was like on like Hot 100 or whatever radio station it was in Philadelphia. I was like, he's legit. So he must be able to do all of this stuff. Again, I was really green and really dumb. But yeah, I would go around, and I apologize to those guys whose $75 I took. But
But funny enough though, unironically, he turned you into like the best bookie of all time. Like you were out there really hustling, you know what I mean? Like, hey, for all you know, you were really doing it, you know what I mean? So I think that's the power of self-belief though, where it's like even though somebody is like trying to scam you unintentionally, they're bringing out this best, like this kind of like uh other version of yourself that's like, hey, like, dude, I can sell, I can really make this happen. And unintentionally, like, you killed it, you know what I mean? Like, sorry to the people you got scammed, but like, AMAC was killing it, you know what I mean? So
Out there.
and I think it goes back to, just like I said, having self, belief in self. Because when you, even when what you're doing seems unimaginable or impossible, the fact that we can believe in ourselves enough to say, hey, this is a possibility, I think inspires greatness. And I think, unironically, like, that happened with you, you know what I mean? In a very, it unfortunately wasn't in the most positive of ways, you know what I mean? But like, it still
Yeah.
happened. And I think it was always a part of you. And I think that's why you're such a great salesman now, or saleswoman now, is because like, you're killing the game. You know what I mean? Like, you were somebody where it's like, I admire your confidence, and like this overall like bravado that you have. Like, when you get on, like, the first time I ever saw you perform at David's business seminar, like, out of everybody there, I felt like you were the most comfortable. Like, you
Mm.
just got up on stage and you were like, this is my moment to shine. Everybody was in tune. Everybody was like, fuck yeah. Like, I left, even me, I was like, damn, I gotta follow up AMAC after this. Like, oh, it's a wrap, bro. Like, shit, I might as well call it now. Cause like, you had that presence, and like, in a very genuine and real way, I knew that you believed in what you were saying. You weren't out here trying to be a grifter. There was no like, hey, follow my sales package. Hey, da, da, da. I was like, no, I just want you to believe in yourself, and I want you to have love and compassion for yourself. And I think that, for like my standpoint, as like an audience member and just like a bystander within that moment, it was just like powerful to see somebody just really have that much compassion and care for the people around them. And rather than trying to nickel and dime people, you were just like, hey, here's a resource. I want you to take it and run with it. If it works for you, perfect. If not, hey, no harm, no foul. But I want to at least give you an opportunity to speak with yourself and have these real conversations.
For sure. Thank you. I think like one of the most important things about, even showing up here talking about this right now, showing up anywhere, saying any of the things, and I'm just sharing my story. This is just my story. But these are, when I talk like at that seminar, I wish anyone had ever asked me any of the questions that I talk about in the seminar. Like, for example, so let's see, there's 5 of you in here. Can any of the 5 of you tell me what your top 2 core values are right now without thinking about it and saying, I'm not sure. What are your 2 core values? Don't be shy. Let me know. If you don't, it's cool. I'll tell you what mine are. Mine are authenticity and growth. I walk into every single room that I'm in. I know they are authenticity and growth. I know a bunch of the support, which is community, compassion, patience, love, gratitude. I could go on. I know all of these things about myself deeply. I know my purpose wise. I know my ego wise. I know what I'm doing. I know why and what we're doing here. I know how I want to show up. Like, even when you got in the car and I was like, hey, just letting you know, I have a little bit of a frustrated energy. That's how I had to show up in that moment. I let you know it was happening. I didn't hide it from you. Like, I have all of these things in my pocket and I know them. And I wish anyone had ever asked me, why are you really in this room? Like, what happened in your life that really makes you think that you don't have value here, or asking me the question that made me understand that I didn't believe that I had value even though I had a lot. So I ask all of these questions, so whether or not you're in the audience or you're listening to me right now, or you listen to me anytime, even if you don't get it right that moment, you will have those questions when something happens to you in your life. And then you get to start and reflect. All right, let's see. Legacy and respect. My God, Will, I appreciate you. I'm gonna have to talk to you about, well, actually, why legacy and respect, if you don't mind. But I like those a lot, and that tracks with you for sure. But most people can't tell you what their 2 core values are right off the top. Can you tell me what your 2 core values are?
I would say community and also growth, because I like, my motto is building tables and eating with your friends.
Sure. Yeah, community and growth seems right for you. I'm excited to see when you do the values exercise at our
November 23rd at the Guitar Merchant. We are we're having another amazing event, and you guys should definitely tune in to that as well. AMAC is going to be doing a couple songs, and
Or
4 songs, and we're going to be having an interactive workshop right after. So, I mean, yeah, if this resonates with you in any type of capacity, there's an outlet, and there's people out here really striving to, heal the world. And I that's why I really appreciate about Amac's mindset, and her philosophy is that it's really about uniting people and creating this unison amongst us all. You know what I mean? So if you're available November 23rd, it's a free event. Come through. We're not charging anything. We just want to, if anything, we want to charge you up and refill your social battery. You know what I mean? So that way we can come together and stand together and change the world.
amazing. And let's see, we've got consistency and confidence from Andre. Those are really great values to hold. And I love that, you guys, got your top two. And so whenever you go in a room, like, why you want to be there, what your values are, and you can see if the people around you hold the same values as you, and if you want to continue to be in those situations. And that's what's great about the inner compass. It's not like this end all be all, do this workbook and you're going to be healed. It's, hey, I just need to know myself better so I can be aware that wherever I am, I'm my own best friend, and I don't have to search for, not that you shouldn't search from advice from other people. It's important for sure, but you have to know in yourself deeply. Because, like, let's say there's a toxic situation that you're in, and I've been told this many times, oh no, just stay in it. Like, look at this person you're working with. Like, that's going to get you here. That's going to get you there. And just stick it out. When I know those people don't have the same values as me or the same, motivations as me, and I stay there, that's absolutely in my ego, and that's not going to go well for me later down the line. So let's see what it will say.
So he said, respect just because it should be shown to all, and legacy because you should build something or at least try. How many people can say you did something good when you're finished? Legacy, yeah. Legacy, how many people did you try to help or teach something?
That's why you're my dog, bro.
Yeah, that's fire. And I really appreciate that too, because I feel like one of my biggest mottos, like I've been saying for like forever, is just like build tables and eat with your friends. And it really comes from like, and if I can, I just want to speak on that a little bit too, because like
Sure.
where that was born from was like I had this really nice salaried position, right? I was a creative director for some big franchise. And I was like, the day that I got fired, they brought in their franchisees for training. And I knew that with the money that I was making a year guaranteed, that within 5 years I would be able to franchise with them and have the same conversation. In that moment, I told myself, I was like, I'm going to dedicate the next 5 years of my life to make this company as big, successful as possible. So that way in 5 years, I can be having the same conversation and be treating a lot different. And that entire day, like, I made a social media calendar. I had all these things set up and ready to go, and all of that stuff fell through. And they were looking at me like, "Why are you here today?" I'm like, "Because I made you a social media calendar. Today is the first day of production. You guys scheduled this. You have my number. You have my email. It could have been addressed." And that entire day, I helped every single department because I was just like finding ways to stay busy and have things to do. Long story short, I ended up getting canned, and I was mad. I was upset. I was egotistical. I was just like, how does this happen to somebody like me? Like I was going to give you so much of my time. And then what I realized was like, why am I begging for a seat at a table where I'm not welcomed or I'm not wanted?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I took my anger and I took my hostility and I turned it more positive. I said, rather than hating this person and hating this man, he did me a favor. Because guess what? I'm going to take everything I learned from here and I'm going to build my own table and I'm going to facilitate opportunities for my friends. And I was already doing that with St. Rose Agency. But what inspired me to do it more was like, dude, I almost made a good amount of money. You know what I mean? And for me, that was enough money to really take care of my family. So I'm like, dude, if I can convince this guy to pay me that much, I can just do it wherever. You know what I mean? And it wasn't that it was the money that was giving me this confidence, but it was the confidence of knowing my worth. And like you said, walking into rooms and knowing your worth and knowing your values, because I understood working with them, we weren't on the same page. Me personally, I treat and operate with my team a little bit more differently. And that's how I work with my team now. It's like, I always need to be reachable. I always need to be held accountable, because the moments that I lax up and don't do that, that's when things fall to the wayside. And I feel like, I have, problems in my life, but it's all about, building tables with people that you admire and want to be around, because those conversations and the way that you eat is different. We're not worried about putting too much on our plate. We're worried about putting enough on everybody else's and helping share the loot and share this feast, because this what we're creating is from ourselves as like a content creator, is from the ether. That's my superpower, and that's the biggest thing that gives me confidence as a content creator, is like my gift is I can turn anything into something. You know what I mean? I could take these two
Mm.
coffee cups and make you a sick commercial about coffee cups if I really wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like it's the intention and it's the purpose. Is it an ego why that I want to showcase that, or is it purpose why that I want to do that for the world around me?
For sure. And when you're talking about building tables with your friends, having the inner compass is really helpful, so you know who really is your friend.
100%.
Right? Who's really aligned with your values, who's there for purpose or for their ego to use you to get to where they want to go. How are they showing up every day? How are we showing up every day? Like, the inner compass really helps you see like who should be in your life. And sometimes that's like, damn, why is everybody so whack? But
Yeah.
like, God, there's another person that I can't have, in my life. But that's okay. It's a gift. And so there's something you actually said in your speech the first night that I want to talk to you about, because you sort of say it right there when it's like making sure everybody eats. And I remember you said, I see so many people who are giving, but who's giving back to them? And I want to give back to them. Do you remember that?
100%.
So I was like, okay, great. But now who is giving back to you? Is everybody giving back to you, or is nobody giving back to you?
I think that there's people in my life who are giving back to me, like yourself and my students. I think that like the way that I've kind of seen it from more of like as I've gotten older, it's not on a purely a financial level anymore. It's more on like an emotional and supportive level. You know what I mean? Because like with me, a lot of the times I'm dealing with people in my community, right? So these aren't millionaires. I don't live in Beverly Hills. You know what I mean? I'm living with people who are like, sometimes working paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? So in the ways that they help support me and pour into me, I'm grateful for it, because it's the thought for me that counts. You know what I mean? As long as you show up, and like if I pour into you and you're saying like, hey man, I need this free photo shoot, or I need this, I need that, but this is gonna help me really start my career, I'm gonna do that for you. Because if I believe in you that much in that moment, I just hope that you continue to believe in yourself to now follow down that path. You know what I mean? I tell all my friends all the time, yo, when you guys are millionaires in the future, bro, give me that Maybach, give me whatever. But right now, we're all in this fight together. You know what I mean? So like, do I get poured back into financially the way that I would like? Not realistically, I'm gonna be honest. But do I get poured back to on a more spiritual and emotional level? Hell yeah. I'm not the richest man money wise, but I'm the richest man when it comes to love and compassion. And what I'm able to give to the world around me, I think God gives back to me. You know what I mean? So that way for me, it's like teaching and doing all these things is a way for me to be like, I'm just going to be of service. And thankfully enough, I was hired by like Sola, which is a amazing nonprofit. They do so much work in South Central, helping, underprivileged brown and black kids, have a resource. And for me, as somebody who's had the privilege of not having to worry about certain things in life, that's so much more. That to me is really them filling into me. As much as I'm pouring myself into them, like I feel like that is just like God giving me an opportunity to pour into me and saying, hey, I know what you're really here for. I know what you really want to do. Because like I feel like with the things that I do now, it's like I'm unaffordable to people that like aren't within my community. You know what I mean? Because like what I do is priceless. It's done with love, compassion, and this want and need to be a light within this dark world around me. Because like with the conversation we had in the car, there's people nowadays telling us every single day the world is on fire, the world is on fire, the world is ending. I didn't say it ended yet. I'm still fighting. I'm still out here. The bell hasn't rung for me. The job's not done. So it's like working with people like yourself where it's like, we're not finished. We know what we're here to do. And now with the world that and state we're in, it's even more impactful. It's even more important. You know what I mean? So that's how, for me, it's like I get poured into, because it's like you're coming to me with your creative mindset and your vision. You're saying, hey, I think you can help me make this happen. And for me, it's like, hey, let's do it. You know what I mean? And that's where I think I get that, give back in a way. But for me, honestly, like, even though I fucking like even teaching, like I have a teacher's salary, you know what I mean? I'm struggling sometimes, you know what I mean? But going out of my way to do all these things just to teach showcased to me that it meant more than just a paycheck. It was about being there and being a mentor, and being the catalyst for somebody else's creative genius. You know what I mean? That to me meant the world more than that. You can't pay me enough to do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's not enough money on the earth to equate that feeling of pride and joy I get from being able to teach and say, I've been doing this for 6 years. I've been struggling. It's hard as hell. But like, now I can look at somebody younger and say, hey, you don't have to make the same mistakes I made. I can teach you how to do it right from the jump. You know what I mean? How do you do an invoice? How do you do all these things? So it's such a cool way for me to like give back, and also feel like the world is giving back to me. The universe is seeing me show up every day in my community and say, hey, you deserve to be even more ingrained into your community because you're here for the right reasons. But that's my TED talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, a little off the rails there. Not really off the rails. You stayed it. You stayed.
Hey, that's
like,
you know I'm passionate. Once I start yapping from the heart, you know what I mean? You can't turn it off.
You know, like, well, it's interesting because, you know, I think at first you went and said, well, who's pouring back into you? And you immediately went to financials. And that's not what that means. It just means, like, I don't show up and do anything ever that's not pouring back into me anymore. And I never will again. Like, and I spent a lot of my life doing that. But everything that I do really has to pour back into me. Like I have to leave feeling filled up and not depleted. And, you know, you got to find the balance there, because there still has to be balance, bro.
100%.
Like, there still has to be balance. If you say yes to absolutely everybody, you're not going to be able to do it all.
It's going to be like that Jim Carrey movie, The Yes Man.
Yeah, right. Well, right. What is, like, that movie is so interesting because, yeah, saying yes to a lot of things is helpful for a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, because he had no boundaries of it, all of these things that came back to him eventually, right? Because, yeah, we do have to, when you're doing like work like this, it's like, this is so fulfilling to me personally, but like, you know, how do I get paid from it? Because at the end of the day, now I'm just going in and talking about money a little bit, right? Because, you know, I'm going to go to, you know, I went to a rehab and talked, and it was amazing. It was incredible. Like, and I wouldn't take back what I would get from that from the end of the world. I literally have a thing over here from one rehab that I talked to, and it's just thank you, with all these thank yous from everybody. But there has to be a balance, because when we are in lack, you know, first, I don't want to say in lack financially, because we just live in abundance. But if we have more money, we can do more things. We can give back to more people, right? Because, like, with this work, I want people to become self-aware. I want them to live the life that they want to. I want to show everybody that you can have success, you can make a lot of money, and you can be taken care of, and you can take care of others, to not just like ingrain this like individually, but ingrain it in community, right? Like, my goals for this company, right? So yeah, because right now, right, I do need you to just help me out because you fuck with me, right? And I'm
100%.
gonna help you out because I fuck with you, because we're growing something that's going to take care of us.
Exactly.
Like, the goal for my company is that the base salary, the lowest salary that anybody gets paid working for this company, is $100,000 a year. You have 7 weeks of paid vacation with stipends to go on vacation, and you must take those 7 weeks. It is absolutely mandatory to take 7 weeks of vacation and live your life. Like, every time I do an event, I want to do an event, and then we take off and we go somewhere. We go into a community, we help a community, and then I go fucking hiking. Like, wherever we are. And hopefully, and not hopefully, there will be a B team, right? So when the A team is out doing their thing, B team is answering emails, setting up some things for when we come back. Then they go do their thing. Everybody interacts between A and B team. And hopefully this culture that we get to build, and we're always checking in with our inner compass all the time, every time we're in work meetings, every time we're just living life. We do retreats. You know, something happens mentally or with your family and you got to take time. You have all the time you need, and you don't have to worry about your job, right? We got you. And then hopefully whoever works inside of this company Some people will just want to work there, and some people want to build their own thing. But when they go build their own thing, then they're going to have a company that the base salary is $100,000 a year. Or maybe they'll be better than me and their base salary will be $150,000 a year, right? Because anything is fucking possible. And so many people will tell you all of this stuff is impossible, but it's all possible. And it's 100% what's going to happen. And we're going to take care of a lot of people, and we're going to ingrain these cultures in more companies over and over and over again until there is a balance of more companies giving a fuck and taking care of their people than there are not. And we're going to have actual mental health fucking parties that aren't just what they have to do to look okay, because we actually give a fuck. So yeah, welcome to my TED Talk now.
No, but I fuck with that, and I wish more CEOs had that mindset, because like they're burdening a lot of people because their corporate greed is stopping them from really seeing people as people, and just viewing them as pawns and people who are just there to aggregate more money to whatever they're doing. You know what I mean? And what I appreciate about your business model is that like you care about the people who are working with you. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where it's like those are so many things that like I wish the corporate America took a page from, because it's not like that in any type of capacity. You know what I mean? Like a lot of CEOs, because this was one of the things I would ask you, because the same thing, like if we had more money, we'd be able to take care of more people. How much money are you going to make as a CEO? And that's something where people will be like, well, I don't want to make less than everybody around me, or I don't want to, so it's like it goes back to your ego and purpose. And I think with you, you're separated from that. The dollar amount, if for you, is more so about being able to contribute, take care of what you guys got going on, and obviously meet your bottom lines, but also take care of the people around you who are working with you. You know what I mean? And for other people, it might just be like, hey, it has to be all me, 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 me. And I'm going to siphon as much as I can from these guys at the bottom, because, it's everybody else at the top that deserves all the money. You know what I mean? So what you're saying is honestly, like, I wish it wasn't like so nuanced. You know what I mean? I wish it wasn't this thing where it's like, oh, it's kind of odd. You know what I mean? Because it's like it should just be standard practice. And unfortunately, we live in a day and age where it's like we're making things a little bit too like the value. We're putting too much value on materialism. You know what I mean? And I think that's like while we're running out of these finite resources on the earth, is because like how do you satiate that greed to an extent? You know what I mean? And I think people have to stop trying to keep up with the Joneses and just keep up with you. Like, what makes you happy? You know what I mean? Like, why do we chase these brands and like Apple and Mercedes and all these things? And like, that's for me as a content creator, it's like I get to be the Wizard of Oz and pull back behind that curtain and peer in and go, that's marketing. That's kind of like social propaganda. That's people who have literally sat there and like made a logo to make you want to buy something, and have spent so much money in putting their product in as many advertisements as possible that Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all these brands are like ingrained in your mind at this point. Like they're living rent free in there, whether you think about it or not, because these are just staples within our world. So it's like with what we're doing, I think we're putting more of the art and humanity back into quote unquote marketing, because this doesn't even require marketing. It's such a powerful and positive message. Like it sells itself. Like we don't need to go out here and quote unquote grift this, because it's like as people and as a society, I would hope that people would just resonate with the conversation, because there's nothing to sell you. You know what I mean? There's no big scheme. There's no pyramid underneath this. At the end of the day, the person that we're trying to hold accountable is you, and just say, hey, here's an opportunity to have a conversation with people who really care about your best interests. And what I appreciate so much about what you're doing is not a lot of people get to have that. Not a lot of people have somebody in their corner really rooting for them. And I think that's why sometimes when people like yourself and I come out and we try to do something positive, there's always going to be that guy that's like, what you're doing is dumb. What you're doing isn't right. And it's like, dude, it's so easy to be a hater, but it's so much harder to hold people accountable and uplift the world around you. And going back to the conversation we had earlier, it's like some people don't want you to hold them accountable. You know what I mean? And it's the
Most people don't.
yeah, and it's the uncomfortability that makes you grow. Like, and I'll make this brief, but just even for me, like creating this creative agency was out of the loss of my father. You know what I mean? And that uncomfortability pushed me in a way that I never thought it was. And before my father passed, being a creative director, all these cool things that I'm doing now, not even on the horizon at all, dude. I thought I was fucking gonna be like this Abercrombie model walking the runway, just looking, doing my thing. And then boom, life happened. And now I'm a creative director. And now I get to be a community leader. You know what I mean? Now I get to be a teacher. So like as for as cool as that kind of lifestyle seemed, my greater purpose and my inner purpose was really community and growth. And you have to chase that, and you got to be real about it, and put yourself in a position to really win spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. You know what I mean? And not sit there and put yourself in toxic environments where you're begging for a seat at somebody's table where they don't really even want you there. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm so appreciative of the work, the amazing and hard work you're doing, because you're the type of person where it's like you're the opposite of Regina George. You're like, hey, come sit with us. You know what I mean? Like, come over here. You know what I mean? Like, this is a really cool table.
On Wednesdays we wear black.
Yeah, hey.
And every other day of the week.
Hey, for me, every single day, baby. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's I've always had like, it was really hard for me a lot of my life, because I always kind of seemed to trigger people by living as authentically as I was aware of, and also always just like being honest and holding people accountable. And that was like really hard for me for a long time. And now it's like, man, like if you don't want to be held accountable, like please go somewhere else. Like I don't know what, I probably called you out like 6 times this week or some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's needed. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, yo, if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing and you just let it continue to happen, what's going to get done, or what's going to change about that situation? You have to have open and honest conversations, and be humble enough to say, hey, you know what, you are calling me out, but like at the same token, I am fucking up, and I need to be real about that, because it not only does it affect me, it affects what we have going on too. You know what I mean? And it's the bigger picture of like the team collaboration. If the team is dysfunctional and not working, how are we going to get anything done? You know what I mean?
For sure, but like you're like, yeah, please God, call me, let me know. Like, yeah, that I'm fucking up, or or just like how I asked earlier, like, hey, what can we do? What's an actionable item that we can do to change this and make sure that we're on the same page? Because it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna call you out like every fucking day. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, so well what do we need to do? Okay, because this is happening right now. So how can we work together to make this happen less? And I think I said this quote to you, but it's like, you're hard on people not by putting them down, but by holding them accountable. And yeah, a lot of people don't want to be held accountable, but I just like really appreciate that I can be honest with you. And it's just like, we can just have these conversations even so early in the relationship that we're building.
100%. And I think that it's that foundation and the key understanding of just conversation. Because I feel like we as people sometimes hold so much to ourselves, and we carry so many burdens, and we carry so many things that make us almost, for lack of better words, distrust the people around us. And for me, it's like, do I love trying to getting everything right the first time? Absolutely. But does it happen 9 times out of 10? No. So you have to be willing to fail, and you have to be willing to be honest and have humility with the people around you. I'm not the GOAT because I'm the best at everything. I'm the GOAT because I get up every day and try. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the difference. It's not about being better than everybody else. It's about being the best version of me possible for the right reasons. You know what I mean? Not to feed my ego, but to feed my purpose, which is community and growth. You know what I mean? So being around somebody like yourself, where you're not afraid to speak your mind, is like it's valid, because it's like, yeah, that we're gonna have like a 30-minute conversation about some stuff, but we're gonna keep it real, and we're gonna be honest, and then by the end of it, we're gonna be on a better track. We're gonna be way further along in something, and then I'm gonna feel less scared or anxious or worried or guilty about XYZ. You know what I mean? And vice versa, because it's like, hey, we cleared the air. We know what's going on now. Now let's work towards fixing that. Staying in the same stagnant place is not cool, but you know what I mean? But working towards something and having, these moments to check in with each other as a team and as business partners is so important. And I think that if you can't have these real conversations with the people you're working with, you shouldn't be working with them. because your ego and your purpose wise don't align. You're not in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? They're in the stands rooting you on, but they're not in the field with you.
For sure. And there's this thing I read the other day, and the thing is, like, everyone's so worried about having confrontation, getting called out, having to make changes within themselves, having to see themselves how other people have experienced them, and all of that stuff. So people don't have hard conversations. Then they ghost you. It's why ghosting is so prevalent right now. Because people just don't want to have difficult conversations. But there is just no real life that doesn't have disagreements, disconcernment, all of these things. Like, so there was this guy wrote about uh Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, and Quincy like went up, to Michael and was like, "Hey, this really weird song you're writing, Billie Jean, like I really don't think that it should be on Thriller." Michael Jackson was like, "No, this is definitely going to be on Thriller." And obviously Quincy Jones was very, very wrong, right?
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Yeah, but we just, disagreement is good for creativity." There was this woman who I did sound for. Oh, her name was Allie something. And okay, I don't know. I was gonna say no pun intended, but like I don't think that's a pun just because she has the same name as me. But she became the Queen of Kitsch is what she was called, but she wrote with Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Mhm.
And she wrote on September, and it's, oh, well, how does it go? Body, body, body. Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh, you know the song. Anyway, the song doesn't matter right now. But there's a portion of the song where there are no words. He's just like saying body da 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 da. Like that is not what it is. So everyone who knows that song, please don't get at me right now. But she was like, she fought with them so much about there being words. She's like, there needs to be words. There needs to be words. There needs to be words. And 100%, I'll play this song for you later.
Mhm.
You're going to know it. And you're going to know that part. And it's a huge song. And she was wrong about it, but she fought with him for months that she thought, but they're still cool collaborators.
Mhm.
Like, we have to be challenging each other. And then we have to know, like, they were like, no, we know this. Michael Jackson was like, no, as the artist, I know this about what I need to put out, and then we respect each other.
100%. And I think it goes to like also having humility to accept criticism and have that kind of like back and forth and feedback, but also have the self-confidence to say, hey, I can trust my gut on this one. I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the honesty, but from my perspective, with this being my art, I'm standing on business. You know what I mean? This is what feels right to me. And I think it's important to always do what feels right within that moment, because like we have these values with us throughout every single interaction we have within our lives, and it's these values that are really giving us that morality meter of like, hey, was this within what I really believe, or is this outside that scope? And if it is, participate. You know what I mean? Remove yourself from that situation. And yeah, I think it's super important, especially as adults. Like, we're not kids, you know what I mean? We're not on a playground trying to like sell candy. We're out here trying to change the world. If we can have a conversation amongst ourselves and change each other's mind in positive ways, we should not be doing business. It's not going to make any sense, because it's like there's the ego wise is taking too much of a priority. You know what I mean? You have to be yin and yang. You know what I mean? You have to take the good with the bad and have these quote unquote uncomfortable conversations. But with us, none of these conversations are uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like it's something where it's like, you know what? Yeah, dude, I have a lot on my plate and I need to be real with that, because it's not just me being affected about it. It's all my friends, the people that I'm working with. If I slip up here, who's to say I'm not going to slip up somewhere else?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that just creates a snowball. So it's like, yeah, I'm completely grateful to have somebody holding me accountable in my corner, because I'm trying to do a lot of good. And the second that I let that framework or mindset slip away, who's to say that? No, not to say who's to say, but like, it could just lead to worser outcomes, because I'm no longer focused on like my main purpose. It's now just feeding my ego. You know what I mean? And feeding something completely outside of what I thought it was going to be. So you have to have people there to have these uncomfortable conversations with, because if you don't get a little bit uncomfortable, how are you going to grow? You're just going to be that same rose in that thorn bush, being like, fuck, like everybody's poking me, everybody, bro, grow. If you want that space and you want that uncomfortable, you want that space and you don't want to be around these thorns, grow. You know what I mean? And learn to work with yourself, and you don't have to grow overnight. You know what I mean? Rome wasn't, like everybody likes to say, Rome wasn't built in a day, but I think that, like, taking these small steps, you know what I mean? And just having self love and affirmation and saying, hey, look, am I 1,000 miles down the road right next to my goal? No, but hey, I took 5 steps today. I'm 5 steps closer than I was yesterday. You know what I mean? And reminding yourself that, like, this is a journey. This is a marathon. This is not a race. I feel like with social media, I think that, like, especially for people my age, we want this materialistic lifestyle. We want major brands paying for us to travel and make content and all this really stupid stuff. But at the end of the day, who does it serve? It serves them. It serves their corporate greed. You're making more content for people to consume more products. You know what I mean? So it's like, when we do something, it's like we're creating an opportunity within our community for people to heal and flourish and enrich themselves through positive enrichment and education. That's super beyond fucking a personal brand and everything, because it's for what we stand for, it's more valid with our core values. You know what I mean? And we're standing on business in a way that we don't have to nickel and dime our community. It's like, if anything, I want to give you my 2 cents. No pun intended.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know where to go from there.
I'm sorry. It was too funny. Yeah, I mean, like, but no, I feel you.
I think just in general, we could talk a little bit about, hard conversations and stuff again, because nobody who's had a long relationship, the thing is, we think when we get into whatever kind of relationship, whether you have a friendship or a business partnership, or it's a romantic relationship, and when you first get into it, there's all these things that you like, and like, yo, we align here, all this stuff. But then all of a sudden there's one thing that's not, and you're like, oh,
well. Yeah, it's like an ick.
Yeah, right. And you're like, well, okay, I don't know about that, but then you don't talk about it. And then, all right, everything you're doing exactly what I want you to do, and then no, you're not. What is that about? And it's like all of this, like your insecurities are showing and stuff, right? But the point is, we have this thought that the only way something is right or that something is good is if it feels good all the time and there's no friction.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not how it works. There's always going to be friction, because none of us have the same wounds. None of us have the same lives. None of us have the same experiences. And if we don't just, nobody who's been, married for 50 years has, like, not went through trials and tribulations when they didn't like that person. Like,
yeah, especially with like a 50-year marriage, you're gonna have ups and downs.
Do you know how many people you've been in 50 years?
Wait, sorry, say that?
Do you know how many people you've been in 50 years?
No.
Like, dude, the versions of me are many at this point in my life, so like I'm 36, so there's just already been many cycles, like, and I'm the same person, but like, you go, like, the things that matter to me right now did not matter to me when I was 26 years old.
Yeah.
Like, at all. I mean, so a lot of things that matter to me today, like, as much as they do, didn't really matter to me like 3 years ago. I was just focused on getting platinum records and mixing records every day. I thought I was just going to mix like hot 100 records every day of my life until I died. And now here we are in this whole new version of myself. So, imagine, like, let's say somebody fell in love with me, and this is just going to be Alex. She's going to be an audio engineer her whole life. And the next thing I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm actually going to be a motivational speaker. I'm going to create this whole company, and I'm going to go start traveling the world. Is that okay with you?
They're gonna be like, yo, what happened to making hit records?
So it's just like, there's so many versions of us. Like, your body changes, just like Yoda. At one point, yeah, I could stay up until 8 a.m. every day, like, and that was cool. I don't want to do that anymore. No, that cannot absolutely happen anymore.
I can't even go out too late anymore. I'm already getting to that point where it's like, I've always been like a closeted homebody. and my friends are always trying to put me out there. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna be handsome inside, bro. Fuck out of here, bro. Stop trying to give me like I have a friend who like not to derail, but I have a friend who like DJs and he does like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. shows. And I'm like, my brother in Christ, I love you so much, but I will not be there, bro. There's no way. There's no way.
Like a good example. I mean, this goes. I follow like my dad's timeline of life so much. It's so interesting to see how that's like passed to me, right? But my dad, they always talk about. My dad was like this really reserved guy, very very quiet, And then once he was like in, his mid-30s, about where I am right now, like he got into like doing his first like play. And as I grew up, I was probably like 5 or 6 when that happened.
Mm.
So I always remember my parents being in like community theater and my dad always getting the lead. And, being this guy that, eventually at one point I'm there, I'm watching him. He's doing a show in drag and, all of this stuff. But, my dad's the life of the party and just a really, really outgoing guy. Now, my dad was a mailman for 40 years, and when he retired, he started doing voiceover acting. He does like tons
that's so sick
of user-generated content. Like he got a role in like a crime doc when they had to do reenactments, like on a TV show, and all of this stuff. But like, yeah, the version of my dad prior, to like 35 would never have done any of that stuff.
Yeah, people change and evolve, and I think that's what's so valid about this process of life is just enjoying each and every one of those kind of like metamorphoses. You know what I mean? Because you have to enjoy and respect the journey to even acknowledge how far you've come. And one of my things, and thank you for Temple for tapping in with us. Temple was saying, growing is really like protecting your peace. You know what I mean? And I think after a certain age, especially for me, you stop caring about the world or like what people think about you. And like even with me, it's like I do all this cool social media stuff. And I was thinking about it last night too. I'm like, but like it doesn't matter how much of a following I have. None of that affects my personal work life. Like I could have 0 following right now. I'd still be doing all this cool community stuff because like for me, what it's really about is just doing it. Like I just want to be there in that moment and making these magical moments happen because that's what really matters to me. I don't the applause and the admiration afterwards is for the birds at this point, respectfully speaking. You know what I mean? Because like that's for my ego. You know what I mean? That applause only benefits my ego, but it's the real impact and seeing the joy on everybody's faces performing for the first time that like lifts my spirits up. I'm like, damn, bro, that made it worth it. Not how many tickets we sold, how many people pulled out. I've had shows where like people perform for the first time and there was like barely anybody there, but that person performed like you couldn't tell me there wasn't a million people in front of that person. And that to me was like, damn, bro, that's so cool to see because you took that opportunity and hey, maybe it wasn't the biggest, most craziest spectacle ever, but you treated it like it was. And I appreciated that because I know what it means to really believe in yourself that hard where, you're just going to do it because you have the passion and creativity to do so. You know what I mean? And I think that's why having events like the one we're doing on the 23rd is so empowering because you don't know whose life is going to change just by having that 2-hour conversation and just being able to sit down in a space where they feel comfortable enough to, really evaluate the steps that they've taken here. Because like you said, you don't know how many versions of yourself you've been till you really start counting. You know what I mean? And it's like some people have never counted before. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I mean, like, look, it's like, and I texted this to you last night, and even right now, only your phone is in this chat. So, we're having this conversation, but it's like I told you, and even at David's thing, there were, how many people were there?
Like 20 to 15 max. So I think the less, like I would say even less, like probably like 15,
I would say like 12 to 15.
Yeah.
Right. So, and he talked about it during that event, like, hey, we're still doing it. We're still doing it. And I went up there and I gave it like it was a sold out thing. And look what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Continuing the process.
But like, because I could have went there and been like,
fuck it.
Yeah, fuck this shit, man. Like, there's not that many people here. Like, I could leave or I could just go up there and half-ass it or whatever. But you never know, like, who's in the room or who you're going to impact. But not only that, it's like putting out this energy into the world is so important. So like the Jay Shetty story of where he put on this seminar and nobody showed up to it, but he stood up there and gave the seminar to nobody. Like, do you know how powerful that is? Because you could so easily just pack up, be discouraged, and go home. Or you could say, no, I said I was going to do this and I'm going to do it. And then I'll figure out how to make it better next time.
Yeah, and the confidence it takes to see this giant quote unquote failure in front of you and say, hey, you know what? This doesn't define me. If anything, it's an opportunity to practice and get better. And that's why for me, like when I first started hosting events, I was very grateful for like having small community shows. So I was still learning. You know what I mean? And this was something that I was doing to just really provide access to the people around me to perform, because I saw that I was surrounded by so many talented musicians and artists and people who just wanted to be taken seriously, but weren't given that opportunity for whatever reason. So like, yeah, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just the process of trying that matters the most. You know what I mean? And I think it's like the difference is that like when you try, you're really just saying, hey, it is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. But at least I'm taking this energy that I have right now to make something out of it. You know what I mean? And I think that really, transpires into like ultimately, a positive impact for yourself and for your self-conscious, because you feel like I can take on the world now. You know what I mean? It's not as bad.
For sure. I mean, look, you just show up. And even there's a really good story, and we'll wrap it up here because I know everybody's probably just watching Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
Oh man.
So that's what's happening right now. But Kevin James, do you know who Kevin James is?
Yeah.
Clerks.
Yes.
Right.
I was thinking of the other Kevin James, the one who used to play a mailman.
Yeah.
Because the meme where he's like off in the corner.
Yeah, Kevin James.
But no, I like both of them. Clerks not even better. I love Clerks.
Right. So Clerks. So how he did that. He maxed out all of his credit cards. He borrowed money from his parents to get the camera. He shoots Clerks. He does all of this. He gets a theater to premiere it. He's like so crazy in debt. 2 people show up. And he's like, oh my God. Like, because he's like, my parents didn't have the money to give me that. Like, but they did. And he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. One of the 2 people who came was the person who then helped him fund Clerks. And that was the beginning of everything for him, because he just showed up and he played it for the 2 people that came, and he put all of his money into it. So we're talking in the car, and I'm frustrated, and I'm just like, what am I going to do? But I believe in this so much that I will absolutely risk everything on it. Like, that's it.
And that's dope though, because that takes an immense amount of self-confidence and self-belief. But also at the same time, you're somebody who where I see has the right mindset and attitude to really capitalize on that. Because like I feel like with you, like we was talking about in the car, you have like a true warrior spirit. You know what I mean? Like you're the type of person where like life can try to knock you down as many times as it wants, but you're gonna keep getting up and fighting like it's the 12th round. You know what I mean? Like you have to have this undeniable, like for me, it's almost like, and it's not to say it's like a detriment to believe in yourself this hard, but you have to have like almost for lack of better words, kind of like delusional kind of like a value of like self-confidence in order to kind of like believe that you can do the impossible sometimes, because it sounds crazy to other people. You can be like, hey, we're going to do this whole thing and it's going to be this and that, and for somebody who doesn't believe in you, it's crazy, it's unfathomable, you're never going to do this. But for you, it's real. You're not thinking of this like, oh, this is my imagination speaking. No, this is something that I'm planning for, and I'm not going to just sit here and I'm going to manifest it. You're going to put goals and processes in line to really timeline this out and start achieving those goals. You know what I mean? So I think it is going back to, we're talking about having like a healthy understanding of like what you can really carry right now, but also still striving to achieve it nonetheless. You know what I mean?
For sure. My homie said to me, the other day, and it's funny because me and him, we go back and forth on like, him telling me, yo, AMAC, like, look how, like, dude, you're doing enough. I'm like, I need to do more. And then he'll talk about what he's doing. He's like, I need to do more. I'm like, you're doing enough, man. It's okay. And I'm like, we always, do this to each other, and I appreciate this. But, he said, like, yo, you're doing so much and you're making this stuff happen. Like, look, I just said I was going to be a motivational speaker one day, and I'm a motivational speaker, and we still got a ways to go to make that a full career, but I do it. Like I said, I'm going to be a motivational speaker who does songs in their speeches. I do it. I'm going to be a motivational speaker who puts on seminars and sings songs on them. So we're accomplishing that on the 21st, right? Like
23rd.
23rd, 23rd.
I got you. See, that I
They,
remembered.
yeah, good. So, so we're doing it because that's what I want to do. So I must do it. I must create the things. And the whole point is he's like, well, how do you keep doing that? And I was like, I just believe in myself more than most people believe in themselves. And even the thought of saying, like, everyone's like, you've got to be a little bit delusional to make it work. It's like, why the fuck do we have to be delusional? Why are the rest of you so, like, what's the opposite of delusional? Like, why don't we, it's like, oh, it's like so impossible to become a Hollywood actor. It's so impossible to become a famous musician, this stuff. And it's like, I don't know how many examples are of there people that do it. You watch these people every single day. Why the fuck would you think you couldn't do it? Like, why the fuck would you think you couldn't do it? There's examples of people like who do it. So figure out, just show up and do the thing you want to do. And if you have to be delusional, that's cool. And I understand that there are so many obstacles in our way. I understand that the game is rigged in a lot of ways, depending on where you are, depending on where you start, but you can fucking do it.
100%. And I think, to just piggyback off real quick, I think it's the reason you have to feel quote unquote delusional is because we live in a society where people think you're crazy for having that much self-belief in yourself. And that's, I think, where the real problem is. It's like, you shouldn't feel like this outsider crazy to think that like you can really change your life for the better. You know what I mean? And I think that's what really is so powerful about the event on the 23rd. It's like, hey, we're making people aware that like you're not delusional, you're not alone. There's a lot of people trying to do the same exact thing that you're doing. It's about having this immaculate mindset where you're perfectly imperfect. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're showing up as yourself every single day, despite what the world may tell you, despite what's going on, despite the noise. And for me, that's why I'm so like proud to be like a sponsor of that November 23rd event at the Guitar Merchant, because what you're doing and what you're showcasing is really an opportunity for us to like come together and just like heal and be in the moment and really say like, I'm here to do something great for me and the world around me. And that's why I really appreciate your efforts and all the hard work you're doing and having conversations like this, because the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? And not only do you have such a like an immense passion and understanding for the greater world around you and how you can use your skills and talents to really, help educate people. But at the same time, you're somebody who I feel like is reachable. You know what I mean? I feel like you're very personable and you have such a great way to articulate all these valid resources and all these valid ways we can just really learn to be compassionate and love ourselves. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to take the time to thank you for all the hard work you've been doing, because it's so necessary and so vital in today's world. And to be able to shine a spotlight and to work hand in hand with somebody who's really, helping bring the light back into the world. Because I feel like for a lot of people, the world seems very dim, but, I think with, what we're doing, it's going to shine that light back on people and give people hope again. And I think that's the biggest difference maker. It's like, you're not delusional for believing in yourself. You just have self-hope. You know what I mean? You're hoping for this outcome, but you can achieve it.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off there. He's like, no, I don't have hope. I have no.
Yeah.
And a KNOW. I have a knowing inside of me. I like whatever I have to weather right now, like I have to fucking weather. I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna weather it. I don't know how any of this is gonna happen, but it's not about how it happens. It's not about how it happens, and that's a hard thing to grasp in itself. But I know what this is. It was given to me. I am the vessel for it. I am grateful for it every day. And I look forward to sharing that with so many people. I thank everyone who came here today. I think this is a great way to wrap up this live.
100%.
I thank you for showing up here and holding me accountable to doing this live.
Yeah, and likewise, I think it's it takes two to tango, and it's definitely a team effort. And just to end off real quick, make sure you guys, November 23rd,
November 23rd.
5 to 7 p.m. It's a free event. Also, it's a charity event. We are collecting donations for Helping Hands. So whether you want to work on yourself, work with yourself, or help impact the community, we are always going to be providing this table for us as just people to sit together, learn how to conversate, have compassion for the world around us, and really just bring this light back into the world. But it's been an amazing conversation with AMAC. Thank you so much again for like all the help today as well. Like I said, it's a team effort, and to work alongside somebody who's so passionate and so just authentically yourself, the way you deal with people and the way that you see the world, I'm immensely grateful for it. And I implore everybody watching today to just check out AMAC's content. Like, it's honestly inspiring, and it's something that has helped me on my mental health journey. And I've definitely come away with this with more compassion and love for myself, and a deeper understanding of why I do the things that I do. So thank you so much for just putting that light out in the world, like, sincerely.
Thanks, Doug.
I got you, fam. But yes, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. We're out. Peace.
All right, the question is, how do I save this?
Okay, so you end it.
I just hit the X.
Yeah, and then it'll say save.
If you end your live, it will also end for all of your viewers.
Yes. Cool, right there, right?
Sure. Yeah. I don't really want to share it.
Share it, then archive it, and then you can download the video.
Okay.
Nice, that was funny though. Honestly, I like that more than like. I wish there was a couple more conversations or questions from the audience, but overall, I think that was really cool. That was a great live.
For sure, I agree. Okay, let's just share it, then I'll deal with that later. Oh, denied. Let's go Sixers. Oh, hi, we're still here.